Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my video doing my January TBR. This might be a few days early, but I thought I wanted to go ahead and talk about it, see what other people are reading, and just get this video out there since we're approaching the holidays and I got time to spend time focusing on reading. So I am hoping that I'll be able to get through all these in January, or some of them I'm hoping even to start in the end of December, depending on how my reading schedule goes. I get a substantial break at my school, which is nice. So I have a lot of genres represented. I have some short books, I have some long books, I have some medium-length books. I've got a lot of type of books. I got a middle grade book on here. I got fantasy, sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars, legal thriller, mystery novel. Like I've got all of them. Horror book. I've got all the genres. So I'm really excited about it. Surprisingly, there are no new releases in January that I'm excited about. None from Star Wars, none from Star Trek, none from any fantasy or sci-fi authors that I follow. So I was like, wow, I don't have any new books to read, which is kind of a relief because I've had a new book every single month for the last year and a half. So it gives me a second to focus on older books that I want to read and catch up on. So speaking of that, why don't we get into my list? It should be fun. The first book is a fantasy novel. It is Terry Brooks's first book in the Defenders of Shannara series, The Hydroids Blade. It's been about a little under 2 years since I read my last Terry Brooks books. I've been reading his books since 2017, so I've been reading them for about 5, almost 6 years now, and I just love them. I just fell in love. He was the first fantasy author I really read outside of the big ones, Tolkien and Lewis, but I read Sword of Shannara, loved it, read most of the series, so I'm caught up to this point, so I'm really looking forward to knock these out. If everything goes well, I hope to read these in January, February, March, so to just knock through the whole trilogy. May not work, maybe it will work. We'll see. But I'm very excited to read this book. I do not know much about the write-up of the plot of this trilogy, but it's Terry Brooks, so I kind of have a feeling I know what it's going to be like. But he's been getting more and more modern in the way he's been doing his series, so I'm very excited about that. Next, I have my book on Tad Williams's The Stone of Farewell. This is the second book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. I read the first book and was very disappointed by it. I thought it was one of the most disappointing books of the last year for me, but I still think that he has the potential to wow me. You know, the first book was much slower paced, and I'm hoping that book 2's faster paced. But book 1 had some amazing lines of dialogue, some amazing just depth to it. Whereas I'm hoping that book 2 has that amazing depth, but also is a quicker story. And we already know the characters, so I'm hoping that it moves along a little bit faster. So this one's, it seems to be a tad bit shorter than book 1 was, so we'll see how it goes. And I love the cover. I love the cover, and has a wraparound to the back. Love that too. So very excited. This is my other fantasy novel. Next, I have a science fiction book to read by one of my favorite authors, Dave Wolverton. He's also known as David Farland, who wrote the Runelord series, which is my second favorite fantasy series. And David Farland unfortunately passed last year, but I'm trying to get through a lot of his other works now that I don't have any more Runelords books of his. There is a new anthology that is in memory of him coming out called Of Wizards and of Wolves. And that comes out in February, and I'm going to get it. But until then, I thought I'd start this trilogy. I have all 3 books, and I will read them eventually, but I thought this is a quick little book. It's really short. It's 300 pages. Love the cover very much. We'll talk about it more when I review it, but very much a Star Wars-influenced cover, and a pretty good back end of the cover, too. But the front end of the cover really Star Wars-influenced. But I'm very excited to read this one. Next, we have my middle grade book, Mine, by Delilah Dawson. It's like a horror book, but as horrifying as a middle grade book can get. I think that Delilah Dawson is a delightful author who freaks me out, and her writing style is visceral and horrifying. And so I'm very excited to read this. I will have read her big adult horror novel, which will be totally different than her middle grade horror, but I'm excited to get into Delilah Dawson's writing again, because she's a delightful author. Next, I have a Kevin J. Anderson, Rebecca Mesta middle grade book, The Young Jedi Knights. I think some people categorize this as YA, but I don't because of the length. I think this is middle grade, in my opinion. And I've read almost all the Young Jedi Knights books years ago, but I don't remember many of them, and I know I haven't read this one. So I'm excited. It's a really short read, should be quick, should be able to get through it real fun. Next, I have John Grisham's The Litigators. I know my dad read this and loved it, and I remember him describing one of the scenes so vividly. He loved this book when he read it. And, my dad's the one who really kind of helped me get into John Grisham. So I'm excited to read this, and my dad will probably reread it after I'm done reading it. So I'm very excited to read this. It's an average John Grisham length. I like that it's a tall rack because it matches the other Grisham books I have, and the art style is it's guy in an office building. It's not like the best cover, but John Grisham books don't have to be super stylized. So I'm excited for this one. Next, I have a Star Trek book. Star Trek from the original series, Child of Two Worlds. I've been reading the Star Trek Typhon Pack series for so long. I am ready to move on to other things. There's been some good books, there's been some bad books, but I'm ready for like some standalones. So I'm going to read a few Star Trek standalones, and starting in January, and I'm going to read Child of Two Worlds. And I'm really excited to read this one. Greg Cox wrote some of my favorite books. He wrote The Antares Maelstrom, which was absolutely brilliant, and he wrote one of the most fun Star Trek books, the first book in the Legacies trilogy, called Captain's a Captain. Very entertaining book, and he's like, this is his wheelhouse, is the original series, so I'm excited to read this. Next, I have another David Weber Honor Arrington book, Honor Arrington, The Short Victorious War. It says, we love our honor. Yes, we do. Honor Arrington, I've read the first two books. I thought both of them were very entertaining. I am looking forward to this one because it's shorter, so it should be a really quick, easy read. I think that she's fast becoming a favorite character of mine, and this universe is very entertaining to read and really good military science fiction. So this should be a fun read in January. I also have Sparkling Cyanide, a great title for a book by Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie is my favorite mystery author, and I've just been reading banger after banger by her, and I'm so excited to read more Agatha Christie books in the future as soon as I can buy them and find them, because they are not cheap. At least if I want this set. If I wanted mass market paperbacks, I could be swimming in Agatha Christie books. But I don't want mass market. I want this trade paperback because this is a nice one. Nice version. The last book I'm going to read is my big tome, this is going to take me a while to get through. And this is Dune House of Treaties by Kevin Anderson and Brian Herbert. For one thing, I loved the Dune book, the first one, and I absolutely adored the movie. It is my favorite single movie of all time. Like, if it was just as a movie. Now, Star Wars and, like, Lord of the Rings, better series for me, but, like, as a single movie, that first Dune movie, love it. Ate it up so much. I could rewatch that thing on repeat forever. But I didn't love the sequel movie, or books, Dune Messiah, Children of Dune. I didn't love them. I didn't think they were horrible, but I just didn't care for them. And I felt like Frank Herbert was going in a direction I didn't care for. But when Brian Herbert and Kevin Anderson took over, I've heard about the direction they go. They focus more on the political side. They focus more on the big cast, telling like a fun story. And I'm like, that's what I want to read, that type of thing. And so there's a couple of reasons. One is because I chose this because this is the first book that they wrote in the Dune series. So I wanted to read this trilogy first. But also, I wanted to read this trilogy and the Navigators trilogy because the new TV show for Navigators based off the book Sisterhood of Dune comes out soon. They're shooting that one now. So I wanted to read that trilogy in 2023. And then also I wanted to read these books because the new Dune movie is coming and I want to reinvigorate my fandom and other people's fandoms of them. And also I'm a huge Kevin Anderson fan, which there aren't that many of us, I don't think, because, a lot of people love to hate. Like, he has a lot of people that love to hate on him, and I understand why, but he's one of my favorite authors, and I gobble up every book of his. Not every book of his is amazing, but I almost always enjoy them, and I almost am glad I bought them. So I can't wait to read this book and to read the other Dune books this year. So that is my January TBR. Quite a lot of good books, quite a lot of excellent things to read, all the different genres included just about. I am super excited. So if you've read any of these, let me know what you think. And if you are interested in any of these, let me know that as well. So until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.